Welcome to OutlookMoney.com. It's 2 hours since the finance minister finished his budget speech. We have already given you our take on the direct tax proposals, what it means for you. You can view the video clip on our site. Now, in the next couple of minutes, we'll try to decode what the budget proposals mean for the stock markets in general and also the economy. I have with me Mohit Satyanand, who is the consulting editor of Outlook Money, and he posts his comments every day on our site. So in the next couple of minutes, we'll try to deal with 4 or 5 important issues that have been thrown up by this union budget presented by Pranab Mukherjee. Now, Mohit, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, there was this whole obsession about fiscal deficit and the figure and all that. Now, are the figures believable?
Well, I think, firstly, this is quite a remarkable change for the union budget, because up until now, union budgets have always brought about a focus on direct taxes and indirect taxes. So it's been sort of sectoral, which sector gets affected the most. This time, because of the global scenario, people have been much more interested in the fiscal deficit. And it's quite interesting to see what's happened in the last couple of hours, because the thought is that if the fiscal deficit actually goes down and the government is therefore able to restrain its borrowing, that's good for the economy. Now, which market indicator should respond first of all to that is the bond yields. So bond yields this morning before the budget was announced were about 7.83%. As the speech progressed, they came down to 7.77%. Which means that they said the government is not going to have to borrow as much, therefore it won't have to pay as much interest. So interest rates, which are signaled by bond yields, started going down. Just now, they're ruling at 7.88%, which means that they're higher than before the finance minister made his speech, which means that the people who are watching interest rates, who make their money from betting on interest rates, do not believe that government borrowing is actually going to go down. What they know is that the budget figures presented by the finance minister are only estimates. So he is estimating how much his expenditure will go up, how much his tax revenues will go up, and how the difference will change. To put it in very simplistic terms.
If he were to put it, that is he possibly overestimating his income and underestimating his expense? Is that one of the things that might be?
Well, I would say that he is being a little over optimistic. Firstly, in terms of, I think the 3 numbers that matter a lot. The first number is growth in the economy. So he is talking about growth in the region of 8%. He doesn't seem to be deterred by the fact that this morning, third quarter growth figures came out and they were only 6%. Okay? Which was partially because of the fact that we had a poor monsoon and the crop that came out in the winter crop that came was affected. But nevertheless, he doesn't seem affected by that. If you look at the economic survey said that a lot is going to depend on global growth. I'm not very hopeful about global growth. So I don't think that we can expect the Indian economy to grow by 7.9 or 8% over the next year. So I think he's being optimistic on that score. The other thing that I find a little surprising is that non-plan expenditure is estimated to go up by only 6%. We know that the way in which the government functions, that when costs go up, the government pays its employees more. The actual growth in non-plan expenditure is going to depend on inflation. And I don't see how he can project today, where we are talking about inflation at 14, 15%, how he can plan on non-plan expenditure going up by only 6%. So I'm not very comfortable with the figures. They don't really add up.
Now, the million-dollar question, what happens to inflation now?
I don't think anybody has the answer to that. A lot depends on what happens in China. If China continues to grow the way it's growing, you may not see a downturn in inflation. As far as I'm concerned, China is a black box.
So it doesn't depend on things like the food supplies and everything, food produce getting better, commodity prices, etc.
No, I think India has one of the big things that's happened in the last 3 or 4 years is that the Indian food economy has become much more integrated with the global food economy. We've become much more dependent on imports. Our dependency for imports as far as edible oils is concerned has gone from 30% to 50%. Our dependence on the international market for pulses has always been high. It's only higher. Today, at the margin, we are dependent on international food prices for sugar. At the same time, our ability to produce sugar impacts global sugar prices. So we are much more integrated into the world economy. But it is true.
But do you see this current high level continuing for some time? The budget couldn't have done anything much.
No, the budget couldn't have done anything about it. These are very, very long-term structural issues. The fact is that we have a country which, if it's not growing by 8%, is growing by 6%. When you're talking about population growing by 2%, you're talking about per capita GDP growing by 4%. Given the fact that you have a very large number of poor people, the income elasticity of food demand is going to be extremely high. So food demand is going to go up. At the same time, we have structural problems in agriculture which prevent agricultural output from going up in response to the increased demand. Those are not going to go away because of one budget. Those are going to require very, very systemic changes, and because agriculture is a state subject and not a central subject, the ability of anybody from the cabinet to influence that is very, very limited. So these are much longer term issues.
What happens to interest rates? People would be wanting to take home loans, car loans. Can they expect the rates to go up? And it's also important for existing people who have existing loans.
Well, the early signals from the bond market are that interest rates are not going to go down. How they pan out, again, we are part of the global economy. All economics happens at the margin. So while we may be a pretty self-dependent economy, the fact is that we depend on capital inflows every year.
So it's pretty clear that the rates are not going to go down.
They're not going to go down.
Either remain the same or they can go up.
I think they will creep up.
They'll creep up.
They will creep up.
It won't be a shooting up, but it will be a creeping up.
No.